She was a beautiful young woman whose heart was set on a life of service in the adventurous land of Tibet until she crossed paths with an unexpected force.
When I came out and saw her standing there, he said, "That is Ruth Bell." At that moment, I was in love, and not only in love, something told me inside, she'll be your wife.
Find out how her answer to his question would literally change the course of history. Hear from those who loved her.
I believe that Billy Graham liked having a strong woman. I think he was enchanted by his wife. I think he probably sometimes stepped lightly around his wife, which is a pretty darn good thing.
I loved Ruth Graham, and it was very easy to love Ruth Graham. And I think that it was because she was so real.
Laugh with those who knew her best.
I know Billy would say, tomorrow night I'm going to ask my wife to say a word. And one time she got up and she said, "Hi," and turned around and sat down again.
My friends around me said, "Ask her for a date." Well, I couldn't get courage enough to, because I knew she was popular with other boys. I tried to hold her hand. She pulled it away. And I'll never forget that and how rejected I felt. I said, well, I've failed with this one anyway.
Unbeknownst to the young Billy Graham, he hadn't failed completely with the lovely Ruth McHugh Bell. She was impressed with the 6'2", 21-year-old Southerner. But she was also a serious student, and she believed her course was set. Ruth was fully prepared to embark on a journey similar to the one taken by her parents 25 years earlier. In 1916, young Nelson and Virginia Bell left their home in the U.S. for the war-torn countryside of northern China. He was fresh out of medical school and she was trained as a nurse. But these enthusiastic medical missionaries weren't exactly welcomed with open arms. Instead, they were called foreign devils. Life was far from easy for the Bell family.
We lived in a turbulent time in China's history. There were warlords, bandits, Japanese, communists, and the Kuomintang, all fighting back and forth. I can't recall going to sleep at night without hearing gunshots in the country round about.
Despite hardships, the Bells chose to stay, working long hours, concerned for the physical and the spiritual health of their patients.
They went there because they loved the Chinese people and they wanted to share the gospel of Jesus Christ with the people.
For Ruth, China was home, and it created in her a strength of character. At age 13, she would need that strength like never before. Sent to join her older sister Rosa at a missionary boarding school in North Korea, Ruth was desperately unhappy.
I'll never forget the night before I set sail for North Korea from Shanghai, crying myself to sleep and praying earnestly that I would die before morning. Well, morning broke over that great gray city, and obviously God had not seen fit to answer my prayer.
Ruth experienced a deep homesickness that persisted until the fall of that first year. She was faced with what some might call a crisis of faith.
I knew that God loved the world and gave His only begotten Son, but I was only one little person in the whole world. I didn't feel included. I went to my older sister and asked her what to do. She said, you might try putting your own name in the Bible. And so I read in Isaiah 53, He was wounded for Ruth's transgressions. He was bruised for Ruth's iniquities. The chastisement of Ruth's peace is upon Him, and with His stripes Ruth is healed. And then I felt included.
In later years, Ruth would look back on her boarding school days as a special training period.
During the months of separation from family, I learned things that only God Himself could teach me, little knowing that He was just beginning to prepare me for a lifetime of goodbyes.
In 1937, as Ruth's mother prepared to send her to college in the United States, Ruth argued that it was just a waste of time. In her mind, her future was already planned. She would never marry, and she would spend the rest of her life as a missionary in Tibet. Her parents simply smiled and put her on the boat to America. Once again, Ruth was not happy.
Well, I remember when I first saw him. That was before we met, and he was dashing down the steps of Blanchard, two at a time, and my impression was